not concerned enough to stay, though.
We do have full comments. Yes.
Nice to see you, ladies. Hey, Stu.
He was stuck behind the school bus.
Oh, really?
They speed those up next time.
Those darn kids.
Yeah, those dark, have to get them to school.
Did you hear about Cherry Creek School last week? I did the driver yesterday afternoon. I didn't ever hear that. I just saw it on the news when I was sort of listening. I was trying to leave. Yeah, it was amazing.
How do you get away with
As soon as somebody will have a picture of it, because everybody's always got pictures of it. In the paper this morning, they had said the kids indicated they were on this stuff, it was like over 60%. On not sales calls necessarily, on social media. Online. I don't remember where it held, but yeah, it wasn't.
It's not just that, it's just the campus.
We need to wait for Steve, correct?
We can maybe give him another minute or two, but I would recommend just we have a quorum. He did text and say his excellent. Why don't we just give him,
Oh, because Don is on.
Don is on now, why don't we give him maybe a minute or two, it's up to the board. Here comes Steve. Denise, sorry, Don, can you hear okay? We can hear.
I still.
Oh.
All the school buses never exceeded the speed limit I can verify. That's a good thing.
Barb.
Oh, did I want to speak?
Good morning. I'm going to call our meeting to order, and we'll begin with roll call, please.
Stu Boyd,
Here.
Denise Chapman. Thank you. Amy Doran, Don Kirk.
Here.
Barbara Cruz,
Here?
Alexander Lessem, Nancy Rumfeld.
Here. Thank you, Laura Lee.
You're welcome.
Nancy, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Oh, yeah, she.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Let's start over.
Shall we go
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to indivisible?
Forgot the indivisible.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
start over.
A redo, Nancy, redo.
We all went over the.
Yeah, it's like,
Let's do it
where's she
again.
going? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Nancy.
And President, point of order.
Yes,
Dawn would need to state for the record why she's participating virtually.
okay, thank you. All right, first
Dawn?
item of business.
Okay. Don, can you state why you're joining us virtually?
Because I have, because this is a meeting, a special meeting, I have to be somewhere else right after.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. First item of business will be the adoption of the agenda for today. So this would be for, oh my gosh. This would be for today's date, which is December 13th. And I just need to know if there are any changes or additions to the agenda before we approve. Hearing none, I will take a motion to adopt the agenda as printed.
So move.
I'll second.
Thank you. So Laura Lee, would you please call the roll?
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
Oh, I did.
You did? Okay, thank you. Stu Boyd,
Aye.
Denise Chapman. Amy Doran. Don Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Alexander Lessem. Nancy Rumpfeld.
Aye.
Thank you. So we will begin with public participation, and I'm going to ask Stu if you would read for us the guidelines for public comment.
Because the board wants to hear the viewpoints of the public and also needs to conduct its business in an orderly and efficient manner, it shall schedule time during its regular board meetings for brief comments and questions from the public. The board shall set an unlimited time for public participation prior to the business portion of the meeting. However, the time for each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes, and each individual will only be recognized once. Public comments and questions at a regular meeting may deal with any topic related to the board's conduct of the schools. Speakers may offer such criticism of school operations and programs as concern them, but are encouraged to exercise their speech rights responsibly. The board encourages the discussion of all personnel matters to be conducted in executive session.
Thank you, Stu. And is there a list?
Yeah, yes.
All right.
And just so you know, I'll start the timer. There'll be a green light. When we get to 30 seconds, it will yellow and then red at 3 minutes. So Lori Goebel.
Good morning. That's kind of a change, isn't it? Lori Goebel. I live here in Thompson School District, Ward 3 here in Loveland. And last year, Madam President, board members, Dr. Schaefer, I stood before you and asked you very pointedly to please reduce the mill levy in light of the increased assessments that were before every single property owner here in the district. That didn't happen. And sadly, everybody there are a lot of people, got a lot of seniors, such as my mom, a lot of people that are working and literally surviving paycheck to paycheck. And I think the board, right now, you have something before you where you could truly make a compassionate stand. I asked for this last year, and I'm asking once again. Please don't change the mill levy. You could have lowered it last year in light of the increased property values, and you chose not to do that. Once again, that question is before you find folks here today, and having this meeting on a day when most people are working their job 9 to 5 to put food on the table, provide for their family, nice Christmas for their children. And by stepping up and saying, you know what, in light of all this, we're not going to increase anything. Something I'd like to bring up to you is the fact that there are two businesses, two very large corporations here in the United States, Tractor Supply and Harley Davidson. You say, what in the world do those two companies have in common? Well, they chose to scrap their DEI programs because they were not seeing the results. Walmart has also made, as a corporation, has also made that same stand. So my question is, first of all, how much more did the school district receive in light of the increased assessments how much money is being spent on DEI programs. And maybe we need to look at the budget and please give a break to the fine citizens of Thompson School District. Thank you for your time.
That's all. Public comment. Good? Okay. All right. We will move now into discussion action items, and this would be item 4.1, which is the approval of preliminary 2025 mill levy certification. So I assume it will be introduced by Todd and then, okay, Rusty? Rusty. Okay, all right. Oh, that's right. Yep. So welcome, Rusty.
Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. I should have asked beforehand, but do I read this memo? Or just talk about what I'm here to? Okay. Good morning, Madam President and members of the board, and Dr. Schaefer. My name is Rusty Williams, and I am the new CFO, interim CFO for the district, and I am here to ask you to certify the mill levy rates. I believe Gordon presented these back in August, and the actual assessed valuation went down $3 million from the preliminary numbers we received, which led to a slight increase in the mill levy rate. The preliminary mill levy rate was 44.872, and the final rate will be 44.883. So it's an increase of 0.011.
Are there any questions for Rusty? Okay, just a minute, Nancy. I will take do I just move into the motion? I will take a motion to approve the preliminary 2025 mill levy certification.
So move.
So, you could take a motion, but then Nancy can motion.
Right.
So you're going to make an amendment to the motion, so I would do that now.
Yeah.
Doesn't the motion have to be seconded before there's an amendment?
Well, because what you're doing is, Barb is motioning on the current, and so if it's seconded, then we'll be voting on that. If Nancy's looking to intercede on that, probably make a preliminary motion. I guess it doesn't matter what the order is, but if you make the motion and it's seconded, then we'll have to act on that, and so.
I think discussion would follow that, and I believe that's when Nancy would make her amendment.
We could do that either way.
Okay, I think that's, yeah. No, we don't have.
We don't have a second.
We could get a second.
I'll
Okay.
second, I'll second.
Okay,
Second.
okay, Denise seconded it. Okay. Is there discussion around this?
I would like to amend the motion. I move to amend that the mill levy for the 2018 MLO have a temporary property tax credit of 2.123 to maintain the total mill rate at the 2024 rate of 42.76, which will reduce the financial burden of a tax increase for our community. Okay.
So you made a motion for
To
that?
amend it.
To amend it. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second the motion so that we have an opportunity to discuss it.
Thank you.
So we'll open it up to discussion, and you can begin, Nancy, explaining a little bit more.
Much of this for me is coming from after reading the close to 1,000 comments from the post-election survey of why they voted no. And I think, and also from all the different things I heard at CASB last week, I think while that, yes, it will reduce our revenue, I also know that many times we often outperform the budget, and so we still have a lot of preliminary work to do on the budget, as I'm sure Rusty knows. So I think this would go a long ways towards generating some goodwill within the community. In reading those comments, there the overwhelming theme is there is a huge trust deficit with the community, and the top two reasons I saw was, one, they simply can't afford any more taxes, and two, the accountability and transparency. So I would that's why I'm proposing that we maintain it at the current 42.76 rate with a temporary property tax credit on the 2018 MLO.
Okay, is there further discussion? Sue?
Yeah. I will vote against the amendment, and I'll explain why. First of all, for the last few years, particularly since the pandemic, the district has experienced declining enrollment. That's expected to continue. Every student that we don't have next year, that we have this year, translates to a loss of about $9,000. I believe last year there was in excess of 100 students, is that correct? In terms of a decline in enrollment. So that translates to $1 million, assuming that approximately the same number of students would not attend this year. Also, coincidentally, yesterday, I had a conversation with Representative Ron Weinberg. The board knows that I'm meeting with the legislators who represent the Thompson School District one-on-one. On Monday, I met with Representative Armagast. Yesterday with Representative Weinberg. This afternoon, I'm meeting with Senator Marchman to discuss our new legislative platform, to talk about our concerns. And the board is aware that the number one issue that we wanted to address in our legislative platform is funding. And so we talked about that at some length, certainly longer than we talked about anything else. And I told him how concerned we were, how unsatisfactory the Colorado School Finance Act is. It's obsolete. It was enacted about 30 years ago. It needs to be changed. He agreed with that. I also shared with him the concerns that the board has as a result of the failure of the special mill and the bond issue, and that what the effect of that will be on the district. And at that point, he joined the conversation, and he said he's very worried at the state level as well. They know there will be a significant budget shortfall at the state level. He said, we're quite confident we're going to have to cut programs, we're going to have to cut funding in virtually every area, every aspect of the budget. Nancy mentioned outperforming the budget. We've been able to outperform the budget because the investment scenario has been very positive. I did some looking last night at economic forecasts. The forecast is that the forecast is not as rosy as it has been in the last couple of years. So due to all of these factors, and because my responsibility as a school board member is to make sure that our students have the very best opportunity they can to learn, I can't support a motion that would take $6 million out of the school district budget. And so, as I said at the beginning of my remarks, I will vote against the amendment. I understand the reason for the amendment. I appreciate the time that went into presenting it, but I can't support it.
Thank you. Any further comment or questions?
Make sure your mics are turned on, please.
Has either side given prepared, like, what's the actual impact on each taxpayer at the two rates?
I used My Home, and it's a difference between either a 3% increase or like a 5.7, but it's hard to say that would translate to everybody, because everybody's property is going to be different, whether they're in a metro district or how much their house went up. Some houses might go up, some might go down. Mine went up. So it's hard to say, I think, for an average. And I also think right now it's probably hard to say what the true impact would be, because there's so many things we still don't know, like the per pupil funding and all of these things. I just know that for us to be able to pass a bond and a mill levy or any kind of levy, I think this would be instrumental in helping in the community. But I understand Stu's reasoning, and I do appreciate him seconding this so we can talk about it.
Thank you. Does Dawn?
Madam.
Yeah, okay.
Madam President, I also have a comment.
Okay.
Okay. So I have several things I want to say, also in explaining why, in the spirit of greater transparency. So, children raised in communities that divest from their schools generally have lower academic performance and lower graduation rates, as well as higher poverty, unemployment, violence, and physical disorders. But high-performing schools like ours, that just produced our best CMAS results ever, raise property values and then generate wealth in our community. Because great schools increase the resale value in top-rated school zones, they often sell for 49% more per square footage than national median. And in our more expensive areas of town, that increases to 77% more. It also drives the demand for property. 26 to 42% of homebuyers consider good schools important. Homes in good school districts sell 8 days sooner on average. And communities attract families and new residents and businesses when they have good schools. And that increases all of our communities' access to more valuable resources. And that creates overall more desirable neighborhoods. It enhances the overall perception of our community. It includes like a halo effect. Those communities are considered more stable because when you're investing in kids, it really talks about what your values are as a community. It also lowers crime rates, and that then lowers the cost we have of public services like police. It decreases the bullying and delinquency that happens inside of school. It increases attendance rates. Students skip fewer classes when we've invested in their education. And then that all translates to a higher income across our community, not just our employees, but everybody has an increase in their income when we have good schools. But notably, we are the largest employer in both Level and Brookline. So when the district pays well, it impacts the greatest number of people in our community and what they have available to spend in our communities. And we already know that we will not be able to match the raises that will be given in neighboring districts, which is already resulted in dozens of people contacting me to say they're not sure if they can stay here. And that is often our most experienced and best teachers who feel that way. When we invest in our future workforce, we are creating graduates every year that are career, college, and community ready. Our graduates are able to work in high-paying trades on day one, and we have more than 50 career and technical education pathways that allow them to do that. Our critical fields like construction are going to lose 80% or more of their workforce in just the next few years. And so 90% of our students are graduating right now, and that number has been steadily increasing. We're investing in how many of our students are graduating, and they're graduating with more and higher qualifications than ever before. They're getting millions in scholarships, which is investing them in higher education. But they're also getting certifications and college credits and internships while they're in high school. And all of that invests in our local businesses, right? Not like our staff is spending money here because they live here. And they're telling us that they want to be able to stay here and live here. And then they spend their money here, which boosts the local economy, economic development, and it creates jobs. It creates a robust economic base, and it stabilizes our tax base overall. But also, we provide safe and free childcare, which is a pillar for our business community because that allows workers to work. Universal pre-K saves the average Colorado family $6,000 a year. And then our free breakfast and lunch saves the average family $1,250 a year. We're also producing well-educated future leaders that are more likely to participate in civic engagement because we have one of the highest community service expectations for our graduates. Our graduates volunteer an approximate 60,000 hours each year That is over $865,000 worth of direct investment in our community. And then those students that have high engagement also increase their voter turnout. They're engaged citizens who are educated, and that means they are less reliant on social safety nets, saving us money over their lifespan, and that reduces the long-term tax burdens on all of our residents. Not only that, though, it contributes to public revenue, which funds programs for our retirees. It has, and all of us have an improved quality of life when we have great education and great schools. We have higher health literacy, greater health outcomes, better access to healthcare, and healthier lifestyles, which all reduces the strain on our healthcare system so that seniors, people who are sick, and our disabled community members have improved access. It also has intergenerational benefits. It breaks cycles of poverty and illness and unemployment, and it builds generational wealth. That supports public services that retirees rely on, including our healthcare and our transportation and our senior centers. That's also an investment in our cultural vitality. It fosters our neighborhood cohesion. There's a greater sense of community. And our schools aren't only used for our classes. We use them for events and churches and nonprofits, healthcare, mental health, before and after school care. Most importantly, I think, in all of this, is that for every $1 we spend on public schools, property values generally increase by $20. One of the greatest investments a community can make, a 20x return on investment. So using the numbers that we had to work with, a $6.6 million decrease in revenue would ultimately have an estimated decrease of over $133 million in property value here in Loveland and Berthoud. And one other thing that just came out this morning is that we have seen the greatest district, Colorado Department of Education performance in their 2024 data. It's a more than 5% increase from the year before. And that 5% improvement in test scores leads to a 2.5% increase in home values in our communities. So I am incredibly concerned that, as I've stated already, that our mill and bond didn't pass. We know that we are facing hard challenges. Stu highlighted some of those at the state level. We're expecting similar cuts from federal programs as well. And our number one commitment in our legislative platform was to talk about how we can invest in our schools. And I just outlined why that is so important to every member of our community, especially our retirees. They are, every homeowner is getting their greatest value from their investment in our public schools.
Thank you, Don.
And that number I didn't even factor in. You know I can, but I won't. So I can't possibly vote for this. I know that it's hard. I myself am paying more money, just like everybody else is. But I've also seen the greatest increase in my property value that we've had in my lifetime in this community. So I'm creating generational wealth for my children that I did not have the opportunity to have when we were investing more in public education in our schools when I went here as a child. We owe it to our kids to do better than they did for us. And we're not doing that. We are not investing in them the way that they invested in us, and that's unfortunate, and I can't do that. And you know, sadly, any change we make isn't even gonna impact my kids. This isn't no longer a personal decision. We already did not invest in my kids' education. My kids had less money spent, literally, not just adjusted for inflation, than we had back in 1992 when I graduated. Only one of my children has had 2 years of a fully funded education out of 4 kids. That is unfortunate, and we have a social contract and a personal benefit to every homeowner in our community to invest in our schools. That is what we are here for. That is what we swore to do.
Thank you, Don.
Madam President, may I just really, really quickly make one final comment?
Yes.
Really quickly. I appreciate everything that Director Kirk just said, and I understand it. I also know that I believe that this goes back to highlighting why there is such a true need for us to really look at how we present our budget, our financials, and like many others, governments, we are all going to have to start taking a hard look at what we want to fund, and this is just the many of these types of discussions. So I will let us move on with the vote now. Thank you.
Nancy. At all? All right, Laura Lee, please call, we have to go back and do the
So we've
motion.
already motioned.
We have motion.
Nancy's amendment, so right now we're going to vote on that.
Okay. Would you restate your motion, your amendment?
I move to amend that the mill levy for the 2018 MLO have a temporary property tax credit of 2.123 to maintain the total mill rate at the 2024 rate of 42.76, which will reduce the financial burden of a tax increase for our community.
Okay, we will be voting on that motion now. So Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd.
No.
Yeah, let me record these. Denise Chapman.
No.
Don Kirk.
No.
Barbara Cruz.
No.
Nancy Rumfeld.
Yes.
Okay, the motion fails 4 to 1. Because Don. All right, so now I need the original motion
It's been made and seconded.
and seconded.
Would you repeat that?
Well, okay, let me find it. I need a motion to, it was simply to approve the preliminary 2025 mill levy certification as presented. All right, so Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Denise Chapman.
Aye.
Don Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Nancy Rumfeld.
No.
Motion passes 4 to 1. Thank you. All right, that is all the business we have at this point in time, so I will adjourn our meeting at this point.